Hi, welcome to another edition of Catch and Release. I'm Ben Cort, the CEO of the Foundry Steamboat Springs.
And I'm Tom Walker, COO at Foundry Steamboat Springs.
As any of you who have watched episodes in the past know, one, I'm not really sure what you're doing with your time. You need a hobby if you have watched these episodes in the past. You know that what we like to do is go out fishing and have conversations about relevant topics. It's basically an excuse for us to fish, and we justify that by talking a little bit about what goes on inside of our world. It's very, very cold outside in the mountains of Colorado right now, and all of the water is frozen. We don't drink, so we can't ice fish. It's against the rules. So as opposed to fishing, I've asked Tom here this evening to discuss ethics, marketing, and to play a game of Go Fish.
Right on.
Fantastic. Well, let's have a little ethics discussion while I get our cards going, Tom.
Good. What do you want to talk about around ethics?
Well, you and I are both passionate about the over-representation, misrepresentation that takes place inside of our world, the kind of classic bait and switch that a lot of people have used, as well as the just purely unethical and dishonest marketing practices that some folks rely on. And I know both of us care about that a lot.
Yeah, very much so.
And do you have any eels?
I do have an eel.
So please, go ahead, first question.
I can't play this game and talk to you about ethics at the same time. This is absurd. All right, so this is something that both of us have been interested in a long time, for a very long time, excuse me. Our field over the especially last 15 years, has attracted a lot of attention from bigger business, venture capital, private equity. A lot of folks have made a lot of money. I mean, we are in healthcare, and there's a lot of opportunity in the field. Unfortunately, what is commonplace in business practice can be unethical in a lot of ways when it comes to behavioral health, substance use disorder treatment. One of the kind of guiding, I won't even say principles, series of guiding principles in my life has been utilizing the code of ethics that you see from National Association of Social Workers or licensed professional counselors, the NBCC, general clinical guidelines for ethical practice as guidelines for business practice. And I think that's one of the places that people really fall off is not having an ethical conduct that's specific to the field that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you and Chris Washington from Synchronous, you gave a presentation years ago at one of the industry trade shows at one of the conferences. And you gave a really good talk about the why ethics are so important in this field. So you usually show this clip from the Basketball Diaries and provide some context for ethics in this field. So what is that context and why is that important?
What you're talking about was a real passion project that I undertook several years ago, and my dear friend Chris at Synchronous was willing to help out with it, and so were a couple other people, Gina Thorne, who we both know. And our idea was basically to attempt to bring some reform to the way that marketers and admissions folks acted, because there wasn't any sort of legal standard that they had to adhere to. And the talk that you are mentioning specifically, we actually asked all the folks in the room, so most of them were people who'd be on the other end of the line in a time of crisis. And if we don't remember and remain cognizant of who is calling us, they can be just another number. Mm-hmm. They can be, another phone call we got to pick up in the middle of the day. Crap, it's a client. When what they really are is somebody who, a lot of the times, it is having the very worst day of their life, because nobody calls treatment at the end of a winning streak. It's usually an extreme crisis that's going on either with the individual or with somebody who loves the person. And so when they call us, it's incredibly important that we never consider them to be just another anything, and certainly not a number. Certainly not a number that could lead to financial gain. That they are a person who is very realistically experiencing the worst day that they ever have. And so how do we meet them appropriately on the other end of it and not take advantage of that? Because it's somebody who's willing, most of the time, willing to do anything to either get better themselves or to help a loved one get better. And if that phone call is meant by a person who's willing to take advantage of that for their own gain, we can really end up in a lot of trouble. Do you have any puffer fish?
I hope it poisons you. Get it? Because pufferfish is poisonous?
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, thank you. So, our field's gotten a lot of attention for exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Large kind of call centers, with folks that are just there to, pick up the phone and refer to individuals by their insurance policy or exploit them. We've heard a lot about it in South Florida and Southern California and so forth. It's one of the reasons our team in particular and a lot of our partners around the country, like other like-minded providers, when you call their admissions line, that admissions team is actually tasked with helping you find the right place, whether or not our treatment center or their treatment center is the best fit. And if I were a loved one looking to help my child or someone I care about, or if I was looking for treatment for myself, I'd really be looking for an organization that was willing to help guide me to appropriate placement, even if I wasn't going to be the best fit for them. It's one of the biggest clues that's just going to suggest the kind of ethos of that organization. And look, if you're searching online and you're going through all the paid ads and everyone that's paying for search engine optimization, which everyone does and you have to do, you don't know who you're going to get. So you can't bank on it 100%, but if someone's going to take the time and figure out what you need, that's usually a good sign that you've found a good place, or at least made a good start.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'd also argue or make the argument to folks who are in our field that it actually doesn't behoove you very well to bring people in who don't fit inside of your program. So there's two sides to that. Well, the first thing I wanted to mention is neither Tom or I think that the big call center in and of itself is fundamentally a bad thing. In fact, I know some programs do very well. However, it's a big call center that's not, and this can be a small group too, like you said, not looking out for where the best place is, but simply looking to bring a person in. And a lot of the times when you do get into big places that are off-site, they just don't have the same knowledge that a team that's on-site does. And yeah, I'm gonna boast a little bit because I think we've put together a heck of a program. Our folks know this program well because one is here all the time and the other's an alumni who went through. Our crew is very, very close to the action here. To finish this thought on that point that you said, our team, which is under you, is not instructed to close deals, to bring people in. Our team is specifically tasked with getting the person the help they need. We're a small men's only program in the mountains of Colorado. We are not right for everyone, but nobody gets off that telephone without a plan. And when I think about your guys' numbers are fantastic. You're one of the best in the business, and we've got such a great team behind you. The numbers are amazing, what you convert and what you do. But to me, the coolest thing that you guys accomplish on that your team accomplishes on that, is the fact that better than 80% of everybody who hangs up the phone with us has an action plan, even if it's not coming to us.
So one of the goals in working with the admissions team and outreach, we have a great outreach team that's out representing us, in Colorado, both Front Range and Western Slope
Mhm.
and in between. But what we really want is to accurately represent our program
Mhm.
online, in what we say in our physical materials, with the goal of increasing that conversion rate you talked about, by having the right people call us.
Yeah, that's
as
right.
well,
That's right. You don't want the wrong person in your program, just like you don't want more phone calls.
Yeah.
You want appropriate phone calls. You want the people who are coming in. So I would rather us have 5 great phone calls a day than 50. Because if we have 5, our people can spend real time with people, helping them problem solve and get what they're doing. If we have 50, it's really tough to keep up with. And yeah, the point that forgot that I was making at the beginning of that whole thing a minute ago was you don't want to bring the wrong person into your program.
No.
If you do, they can those negative ripples can affect sort of everything all around, and really don't want to do that. I got a question or two for you.
All right.
But first, I think I keep going because I'm winning. Do you have any sharks?
He's cheating.
One of the things that I love about the way that you guys do this is the involvement that you have with the clinical and the medical teams. Will you talk a little bit to using the way we do it as an example, because I think if there was a better way, we would each be trying to do it, so we'll just tell you about how awesome we are. About how your admissions team interacts with the medical and clinical departments.
Yeah, well, I mean, for one, what we try to do in our weekly admissions meetings is have other team members join us to provide education or line of sight on what's occurring within the facility, the why of how things are occurring, as well as what the future holds and what we're preparing for, so that admissions team is always kind of finger on the pulse of what's happening in real time, regarding programming and the client experience, so they can speak to that more directly. More importantly, though, someone that appears to be a good fit for the program, as far as the admissions team is concerned, will do a pre-admission screening. All of the information, pertinent information, will be taken down in quite some detail, and that information then is vetted by our clinical leadership and our medical leadership, and someone does not come in unless they are approved by both teams, and those teams don't have any tie to the financial concerns of the organization, so that they are not their ethics are not diluted by concern over revenue, over how much money needed, over what the census has to be, over how big the company wants to be in some day. They're making decisions solely based on clinical appropriateness, medical appropriateness, what the milieu currently looks like, whether this person is going to be the best fit, and they have the absolute freedom to do so. And that's actually something that both you and I
We won't touch.
No, I think there might be times where we raise our hand and say, "Hey, can you explain this to me?" But I've been here a year now, and I have yet to see any pushback from executive leadership regarding an admission that was not approved, or that an alternative suggestion for an alternative placement was made.
I always feel like it's so inappropriate when administration, because we've got 3 really distinct things. We've got administrative, clinical, and medical inside of our world. And when we're all working together, we are working together really well. But too often there's tension between them all. And some of that tension is normal because we have sort of different things we have to look out for. But it's been something I've never understood, and I've seen a lot of. Like somebody in my position without advanced degrees, let alone advanced degrees, licenses, etc., decades of experience, trying to argue with, I mean, how asinine would it be for me to say to Dr. Barnes, well, Dr. Barnes, I think maybe you're not considering this. Or to Dr. Schuler, or whatever, double board certified PhD DO.
But it does happen in a lot of
Happens
places
a lot.
where you may have a face on a website or someone's bio attached to a website that doesn't really have um, control over that department or may not be there enough. And it's one of the things that really attracted me to Foundry and move across the country with my family is the fact that clinical leadership is a part of this program.
Mm-hmm.
Medical leadership is a part of this program. They're not just folks that are thrown out there because they have a license.
Right.
This program has a level of sophistication that it's really above and beyond kind of anything I've seen, even in larger organizations I've worked in, and that's because of that. And it's because you surround yourself with smart, educated people and let them do their thing.
Yeah, makes our jobs easier too. I feel like you should ask, because I keep asking and I'm really winning.
Do you have crabs?
Yes, Tom, I have crabs.
Thank you. Do they need to be matching crabs or can they be different crabs?
Does your crab look different than mine? Do your crabs look different?
They're different colored crabs.
So should we?
So there are times where executive leadership gets involved in cases or individuals that are looking to admit.
Yeah.
What kind of circumstances causes you to get involved in a situation?
Oh man, well there's certainly times when I get calls directly, as I'm sure you do too, people we've known throughout the years, and some people you're just really close with, or there's a therapist who you've worked closely with for a long time, another provider, and you sort of want to help see that thing through. The way that I think that works, and where I have been able to come back and ask questions to Dr. Barnes or his team, or Dr. Schuler and his team, and where they'll listen, is because I don't pull that trump card out, and neither do you. We don't do that like, yeah, okay, thanks for the input, admit him anyway. So if there's some information that I might have that they don't have, I feel like they're always really happy to listen to it. That's also just a symptom of a good collegial working relationship too. So we all do respect each other's space. And I think one of the things I love the most about our senior team is just how frank and honest we can be with each other. Dr. Barnes can sit down with us and say, what in the world would you guys do with this? Just like we can sit down with him and say, I'm not seeing it right here. And since we all kind of are bringing different perspectives to it, but in the end, the bottom line to it is, in the end, I'm always going to trust their decisions, just like, and we're all ask them sometimes too, like, in the end, I need you just to trust my decision when it comes to making sure we're going to make payroll and all that stuff,
Yeah, when you're talking, I was thinking too, one of the things that enhances that conversion rate, right? The appropriateness of someone actually picking up the phone and calling us, are these relationships we're talking about, right? So you're out, you do a lot of speaking, traveling around the country. Dr. Barnes is an expert in the field of substance use disorder and trauma, and he's speaking and traveling around the country. I have deep roots around the country, especially in the Northeast. Melanie's out and Amanda's out representing us and forming new relationships. What I've found over the years is that your best referrals tend to come from those relationships, because those relationships are sending individuals to you based on knowledge of what you do and a trust in your team based on that relationship they have. And they're not just, giving someone your number because they don't have any option. In most cases, whether they're clinicians, interventionists, other programs, physicians, lawyers, what have you, they're handing out that information because they're listening to someone and they're saying, I know the right spot for you, right? And so, I'll get involved and say, hey, this is coming from a very good friend of mine from the DC area. They're referring because of this, so folks know. And then I might intervene. Intervene's not the right word. I might kind of stay involved to a degree to make sure that person is getting consistent feedback regarding progress, assuming a release of information is on file, because that's going to affect the outcome for the person that comes to treatment here and for their family.
For
They
sure.
go back to that person, or they're going to need that aftercare plan. And so, yeah, inserting ourselves because of those relationships. But that really, I mean, that's about it, you know.
I feel like it is one of those red flags you can look for when there's a big disconnect between different departments. And if you hear something that's dramatically different from admissions than from what marketing told you or what clinical ends up saying, none of us nail it all the way. And I know that every now and again I'll look at a piece of collateral we put out and I'll be like, hold up, when's the last time we went like canoeing? Or because there's guys doing that. But we really, really do try to accurately represent who we are because we want Foundry guys. We don't want everybody, we want Foundry guys.
Yeah. And God, we could spend so much time talking about how this has been done in our field the wrong way, you know, and I think that's been harped on a lot. I think you can find nightmare stories if you really...
Movies.
Yeah, movies. This year, that movie came out this year. I mean, I laugh because I worked for a program that prior to me joining had been telling individuals they had a pool and were on the beach, and neither of those things were true, you know, and not to shine light on the negative feed just because obviously that's wrong, but what they ended up with was a very high rate of individuals leaving against clinical advice or against medical advice because we're forming a relationship that has to be founded in trust.
Has to be.
And if you break that trust at any time, but especially from the beginning, like there's no way you're going to get that person to open up and do the work that they need to do to have a successful outcome.
How are they going to differentiate between a lie that was told to them and a breach of trust that happened at the beginning with somebody in admissions, when then they have to trust clinical and medical? Because it's not like they're separating those departments. It's just Foundry lied to me. There is no pull here. So then you meet the clinician, they start whole from the beginning. Yeah, that's fantastic advice to other providers out there. Go a little slower and just represent who you are, because unfortunately, and I mean unfortunately, there is more than enough business for all of us. The day that I wake up and I know there's no need for us to do this anymore and I can go just fish. When we have to make money, so get a job at Subway or something, become a sandwich artist and then fish. Be the best day of my life. But there's more than enough out there for us. And I think if we get a little more intentional about directing people to the right places instead of just bringing them to ours, we'd be in business.
Do you eat jellyfish?
Go fish.